Hello, this is Karen Elizabeth, Pat and Jack's baby girl, and welcome to another episode of Karen's Inquisitive Corner. Are you suffering from trauma? Do you actually know what trauma is? Has there been events in your life that you thought you had handled, that you were over, that you had dealt with, that you had forgotten about? But for some reason, these events, these situations continue to come up. You find yourself thinking about them. You find yourself talking more about them, and you really don't understand why. You could be experiencing trauma. Trauma is not what's wrong with you. Trauma is what happened to you. Let me repeat that. Trauma is not what's wrong with you. Trauma is what has happened to you. You can think of trauma like maybe a deep cut that you were cutting a ham and you cut your finger, then you wrap it up and you wrap it up. No, I'm not going to go get stitches. I'm not going to the ER. It'll be fine. But then as time goes on, that wound starts to get deeper and it starts to just sit there and it starts having pus come out of it and it starts swelling and it starts getting red and then it starts getting infected. And then that infection covers your entire body. That's just like trauma. When it's not dealt with, it just sits there and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it comes out in so many different ways that you may not really realize. So what is trauma? Well, I'm glad you asked. Trauma is a single event or it's repeated events, multiple events that we are not able to cope with, that we are not able to logically work through, that our bodies are just not able to ingest it and understand it and live with it. That's what trauma is. Something just dropped. But that's what trauma is. Trauma is just not being able to live every day without thinking about this event, this single event, or these multiple events or repeated events that have happened to you in your life. So a lot of times we talk about coping. Being able to cope with something. So what is coping? Coping is being able to manage, is being able to overcome problems, stress, difficult situations. Okay, coping is the ability to handle difficulties successfully. And what does that mean, successfully? That means to be able to live your everyday life without those events, without those situations, without those repeated happenings in your life to affect you living day by day. It's not something that you think about every day. It's not something that you talk about every day. You're able to go on with your life with that event in your psyche somewhere, but it's not something that you dwell on. But when you're not able to cope with it, it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up in times that you are unexpected for it to come up, and you talk about it more than you kind of catch yourself saying, dang, why am I still, talking about that? 70% of Americans have actually suffered or experienced at least one trauma episode, one trauma event in their life. And that event could be anywhere. It could be in family. It could be at church. It could be in community. It could be at Kroger. It could be with an Uber driver. It could be anywhere. Because remember, what your trauma is may not be my trauma. And what my trauma is may not be your trauma. Now, a lot of times we try to put trauma as being mental and it's being physical. But a lot of times when we think about trauma, we think about mental. But I want you to understand trauma is both. When you are physically traumatized, it's going to affect you mentally. When you are mentally traumatized, it's going to affect you physically. So it's like a piece of a puzzle. They both fit together. You're really not going to experience one without experiencing the other. So when you are traumatized, your mental and your physical has to be healed. It has to be treated. You can't treat one and not treat the other. Now, there are three things that are always going to be included in a trauma situation. It will be unexpected. Trauma is not planned. You don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to have some trauma today. It's unexpected. The person is usually unprepared because it's unexpected. So you're going to be unprepared for it. You're not going to be looking for trauma to happen. You're not looking for a car wreck. You're not looking for a death. You're not looking for something to happen to your child or molestation or something like that. You don't wake up in the morning saying, oh, trauma is going to happen to me today. So it's unexpected. It's unprepared. And ultimately, trauma is absolutely nothing that you or me could have done about it. We would not have been able to stop it. We would not have been able to control the event or the situation. So if you've had trauma in your life, don't blame yourself for it. Don't say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. No, because it was unexpected. You did not know that you were going to actually go through that. It was unexpected. It was surprising. And you didn't know what to do once you went through it. Some of the signs and symptoms of trauma, again, some of these signs and symptoms may be for me. They may not be for you. They may be for somebody else. They may not be for other people. But emotional numbness, you feel absolutely nothing. It's like being drugged up on Valium or something. You have no emotions. You're not crying. You're not sad. You're not happy. You have absolutely no emotions. You detach yourself from some of those events. Now, I've said before in the corner, my marriage, there's a lot of things about my marriage that I absolutely do not remember. I don't even remember the date I was married. If somebody came in here right this minute, right there, and said, Karen, I'm giving you $1 million to tell me your wedding date and year, I would not get that $1 million. I have absolutely no recall of the day and the time and the year of when I got married. And it's a lot of events in my marriage and in my life that my mind has just blocked off, and I could not recall it to save my life. I have actually detached myself from that. You slow down, your emotions are slow. You have difficulty feeling joy. You're not positive. You're not always negative, but you're not able to have positive feelings. You feel worthless. You feel guilty. You feel like it's your fault. If you were in a car wreck, maybe you looked the other way, or maybe you leaned down to pick up something and you were in a wreck, and maybe your kids were in the car, your mom was in the car, something like that. You can feel guilty, but it's not your fault. You didn't wake up planning to have that wreck. You are usually on edge and you're anxious, and things shock you a lot. You have shortcomings, like people may be talking to you and you just cut them off. You know, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to talk about it. You may have outbursts. You have flashbacks, and you have intrusive memories. In other words, when you're not even thinking about it, those memories of that event or that situation just intrudes your mind. It just takes over what you're doing. You could be in the car by yourself, you could be in the shower, or you could be in a room of 100 people and feel alone. And that memory will just kind of come and take over your whole mental and your whole physical body. You avoid triggers. In other words, you avoid places, people, activities that's going to remind you of that situation. It was very hard for me to look at or even read stories of women that had been in abusive situations because it kept triggering what I had went through. It kept triggering it. And I didn't want to look at it. Movies, books, commercials, anything like that. I did not want to look at it. It was hard for me to look at, for example, the movie Precious. That was a very, very, very extremely hard movie for me to look at it. But for some reason, I was just drawn to it. But it was hard for me to look at because of my trauma events, the situations that had happened in my life. You have difficulty trusting. You don't trust people. You have difficulty having that safety and that security because for some reason in your life, that trauma stole that from you. It stole that security. It stole that safety. It stole your childhood from you or whatever it may be, but you have a hard time relating to people. And it's hard for others to actually understand it because their trauma may be different from your trauma. Now, one of the main things about myself, and I talk a lot about myself because I want you to understand that I'm human too. Yeah, I get on here and I'm happy and, and I'm talking to you all about this, that, and the other, but I go through things too. And it's easy for me to talk to you about it because 9 times out of 10, the things that I'm talking about, I have experienced it. And the things that I haven't experienced, then we learn it together. But one thing that I learned in my counseling and going through the things that I've gone through in my life is events cause events and events cause events. And so you may not understand why you do certain things. You may not understand why you say certain things or you feel a certain way. But what my counselor has been able to do is she's been able to bring all those pieces together to understand because this happened, I did this, and this was the result. Not my fault. Nothing that I did to myself, nothing that I caused to happen. But because this event happened, it doesn't matter how long ago it was, 50, 40, 60 years ago. This event happened, which caused me to do this consistently. And the result was this. And so now I'm left with trying to figure it out and trying to put all the pieces together. That's where counseling comes in. Because even a nurse with a master's degree, I thought, I don't need counseling. I can counsel myself. I already know, what the ins and outs were. No, I didn't. Because the thing about the counselor is they don't know you. Okay, they don't have a dog in the fight. They don't love you. They don't know your family, nothing like that. They're not kin to you. They're not your neighbor. They don't go to your church. So they can say things to you. Some of the things are going to hurt. Some of the things you have to face and say, wow, really? And it's just a process to go through, but it's a needed process to go through. And it's okay not to be okay. Okay, so let me go on. Also, some of the physical signs and symptoms are fatigue, just being tired, high blood pressure, heart disease, stress, anxiety, depression, and it just goes on and on and on. You can eat too much. You can not eat enough. You can buy a whole lot of clothes that you really don't need or you can't wear, or maybe you don't buy anything. You can go too much. You can not go enough. You can clean up your house too much. You cannot clean up your house too much. So it can come out in you in so many different ways that you may or may not understand, or you may not be able to attach it to that event or that situation. So let's look at treatment. The majority of treatment for trauma includes psychotherapy. That's when you go and you talk with a counselor. Now, in some cases, medication is used, but in the majority of the treatment, it has to do with psychotherapy. When you sit and you talk with someone and you may do different activities to help that trauma come to the head and you be able to deal with it, meaning you're able to go through your life with it. Now, one thing about trauma, you are not going to forget it. You are not going to forget it. Okay? Now, yeah, I forgot the date that I got married, but I have not forgot the trauma. Therapy is not forgetting the trauma. Therapy is being able to live with the trauma and being able to survive with the trauma, understanding the trauma, understanding whose fault it is, being able to work through the trauma where it does not control your life, where it's not popping up in any and every situation unexpectedly. That is treatment. Now, one of the treatments that I actually went through, and it's called eye movement desensitization. And what that consists of is your counselor actually may give you a ball that you're looking at. They may play music, they may have tones or something like that, and you focus on that the whole time. It's quiet and you focus on that. But as you're focusing on that, you're thinking about the trauma and you actually relive that event and you put yourself mentally back into that event. Those of you that have gone through trauma, you understand that it may have happened 25, 30 years ago, but if you think about it, it was just yesterday. So that activity actually takes you back to that situation. It takes you back to what happened. But instead of you thinking about the actual result, you think about the result being differently. You think about the result being turned around. And it actually gives you a sense of relief from that trauma. Yeah, it sounds like, what, Karen? But it actually does. Now, going back, reliving things that you've gone through in life is hurtful. And it can be very hard sometimes. It can bring back bad memories. It can bring back tears. It can just make you stand still, where you just can't move. You feel paralyzed. It's hard to go back there. But in order to be treated, in order for you to deal with it, you have to go back there. You have to go back there and understand it. You have to go back to that trauma, to that event, to that situation, in order for your mental and your physical body to be treated from it. Again, you don't forget it. The trauma doesn't leave, but you're able to live with it. It's not on the surface. It's not on the top 3 things going on in your life. It's way in the 20s or the 30s somewhere now. There's one main thing to know about trauma. And as I said, you can have symptoms, and your symptoms can be way up here. You can go through treatment and they'll gradually come down. But there may be events in your life that happens where those symptoms come back again, or you're reminded of that trauma, or you may be even faced with that trauma again. But going through the treatment, it helps you know when you go there again, or when the event happens again, you're able to deal with it. You know what to do. You know who to pick up the phone and call and talk with them about it. And it's okay. It's okay. We want to walk around saying, oh, we're okay, we're fine. I can't believe that person is going through that, or that person is going through this. But the main person that's talking about, oh, they're crazy, or they're this, they're the main person that's going through something, probably trauma, and they need the help. and that need the sensitivity of the other person. If you don't understand it, it's okay. Say, I don't understand, but I'm here and I'm going to support you and I'm going to listen. I haven't been through that, so I can't say I know how you feel because I don't know how you feel. But a true friend, a true person that cares about you, a true person that loves you is going to be there for you. If that person judges you, then you may need to get them the benediction because they're just going to bring you down. You don't need people like that in your life. If you haven't experienced some type of trauma, some type of disappointment, some type of letdown in your life, keep living. Trust me, keep living. You will. I mentioned earlier that 70% of Americans, roughly 223 million people, experience trauma at least one time in their lifetime. What I didn't say was most of those 70% of people don't even realize that they're going through trauma. They're not able to pinpoint, this happened to me in my life. This is why I'm experiencing this physical, and this is why I'm experiencing this mental anguish today because of the trauma that I went through. They're not able to relate it. So what do? They live their whole life with this trauma kind of coming and going, kind of coming and going, coming and going. If something like that is going on in your life right now, it's probably trauma. Pick up the phone, call somebody, talk to somebody about it. Okay, call counselors at your church. There are free counselors everywhere. Google it. Talk to somebody about it and try to understand why you cannot let go of this event or this situation. It's kind of like it haunts you. It's like a ghost and it just kind of hangs over you all the time. You're probably going through trauma. You know, this year in K&K, I changed the look of the corner. And I also changed the theme. The original theme was everything health from A to Z. And we went to more than health, a corner for every conversation. And I know a lot of you probably thought, Karen, why would you change your theme? Why would you change health? Well, I didn't change health. I just opened health up and I made it more holistically, which means it covers every part of you, mental, physical, social, environmental, all of it. So instead of just looking directly at health and looking at just blood pressure or congestive heart failure or whatever, health is the whole person. And I felt like I was not giving you all that you deserved from health. You have to understand health is community. Community is health. Schools, neighborhood, community groups, churches, friends, parks, market, everything has to do with your health. Art, music, homelessness, so many things, everything that you can think of, how you dress, how you eat, how you carry yourself, your conversations, what you think about yourself, what you think about other people, headaches, just on and on and on. All of it correlates together. You cannot have one without the other. So when you think about, okay, Karen, why did you change to a corner for every conversation is because it incorporates the whole health. It incorporates everything. It helps you to understand not just medical diagnosis. It helps you to understand how everything in the universe works together. for you and I to be healthy. I love you. I hope you learned something today. This is Karen Elizabeth, Pat and Jack's baby girl, and I will see you next Saturday. Bye-bye.